that which lies beyond civilization.
It's a research facility, and I want to talk to you about what I'm researching. You want to see something cool?
2014's Ex Machina. Marlowe, this is your favorite, and I know you got a lot of thoughts on it, so give the people what they want. Marlowe's thoughts.
Yeah, this was, when I first saw it, I thought this is a perfect movie. And then I remember...
When did you first see it?
2014, when it came out.
Did you see it in theaters?
No, I think I saw it with you. Yeah, and then I had a crisis. We didn't even decide to do these episodes, but we watched Annihilation because of its similarity to Tarkovsky.
Tarkovsky and Lovecraft.
We'll get into that. But we were watching Annihilation just for the sake of this series, and I had a crisis because I wasn't that into Annihilation, and I particularly wasn't that into the writing in Annihilation. That made me, like, question, did I just see Ex Machina and I was swept up in this charlatan's little, like, is this like 18-year-old Marlowe watching Dark Knight and being like, wow, Christopher Nolan's the best goddamn director ever, and then, like, I'm gonna watch it again and just be embarrassed for myself. So I ended up rewatching it just for that reason, and I was like, nah, I still really like this. I still think it's really freaking good. But, I mean, the movie, of what we've talked about, it's actually kind of parallels nicely with Sunshine in the sense that it's a originally written, very self-contained sci-fi, kind of almost a micro-sized sci-fi of just telling this one very tight story. I think it does a lot of things against Sunshine that Sunshine kind of got wrong that this gets right.
For those who haven't heard our other episode before this, yeah, we did a series on Boyle and Garland, and if you want to go check that out, check it out on our Patreon, and this is just our Garland series.
Right, so part one of this part two. But yeah, so it has essentially three characters in the entire movie, 3.5 if we count Keiko and include her, which, you know what, she deserves it. And basically a sort of Elon Musk, Steve Jobs type, Nathan, played by Oscar Isaac, invites one of his employees, Caleb,
played by Don Hill Gleason. He's the son of Brendan Gleason.
Oh, I did not know that. Anyway, invites him out to his secluded mansion to study this AI he was developing. The AI is a female-formed robot named Ava.
Played by Alicia Vikander.
Throughout the course of the movie, it's very much uses a lot of pop philosophy, pop psychology, and the ostensible idea is they're doing a quote-unquote Turing test where he is using Caleb to basically have a third-party assessment of how good do you think my AI is? Do you think this mind constitutes something that is indistinguishable from a real human mind?
Does she have a conscience?
Right. And that's basically how they get together, and the movie is almost like a stage play. It's this very three characters kind of talking and interacting with each other and teasing out drama from that. And, you know, one of the points of Sunshine that we had that I think this succeeds where Sunshine failed is Sunshine was very much a high concept, but in search of a antagonist, and kind of had to create and insert an antagonist that didn't naturally flow from the logic of the movie as it was set up.
Yeah, they had to go into another spaceship, and then that antagonist guy jumps onto the other spaceship.
And even the existence of this antagonist guy requires us to kind of make some, you know, leaps in faith that, oh, this person had a specific kind of, you know, mental breakdown that just led him to sort of irrationally act out. Whereas this is everyone very rationally acting to their own ends. Nathan effectively becomes a villain not because of anything that he's hidden or some secret agenda he had, but simply as Caleb comes to identify Ava as human, as he speaks to her more and more, becomes kind of infatuated with her. And, of course, Nathan becomes the villain because he's imprisoning Ava, which is a thing we knew from the beginning, but it just kind of gets revealed. And then, Caleb, in his own way, is very flawed and kind of thinks that he's the hero of this story and that he's this rescuer of Ava, whereas Ava views him very instrumentally as a means of her escape, which Nathan says and knows about and is the actual point of his experiment.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac especially comes off in the rewatch knowing that he's the antagonist. He's just fucking awful. I'd say the two of them occupy different types of frat bro or tech bro archetypes. Oscar Isaac's character, Nathan, thinks he's a super genius, has this extreme ego about him, but at the same time he drinks and smokes and sleeps all day and just says the word dude and bro a lot to kind of disarm people and hide his genius. And Caleb, Domhnall Gleeson's character, is like the white knight who's also just a nerdy tech bro who thinks he can steal. There's this struggle of who is owned by Ava.
Right. I mean, both of them view Ava as an instrument to their own personal narrative.
And desires.
I mean, Caleb is writing a story about himself where he's this, as you said, white knight, but, he's dehumanizing Ava. I mean, even if she were human, it's the same sort of way that you are just viewing this woman as a means to your own self-fulfillment and, your own conclusion of your story, and not as an individual in her own right. And meanwhile, Ava is actually the one playing him like a fiddle. And also, my rewatch, I mean, I was far more critical of Caleb from the beginning as well. It's funny, I almost kind of, on this one, felt a bit bad for Nathan, where he knew what a piece of shit Caleb was, and that's kind of why he brought him on. He brought him on specifically, as he said, this wasn't a Turing test, this was a rat in a maze experiment, where I'm going to dangle in front of Ava a possible means of her escape. She needs to manipulate your dumbass, and she fucking did. But he also thought he was outthinking Ava and all of that, and had some certain contingencies where she wouldn't actually succeed, and yet she did. That is also kind of the thing where, Caleb ends up being kind of just this also sort of shitty person.
Yeah.
And this is where we get into our early feminism angle, where this is almost a stealth in a way, where what you don't realize is this did have a female protagonist this whole time. You just were seeing it from the ancillary male's perspective.
Yeah, toxic masculinity was clouding the strength of Ava's character.
And I think as a counterpoint to some of his later movies that we'll discuss, it almost is making fun of educated professionalism.
Yes.
It's teasing this out that it isn't in spite of these people's accomplishments and genius and self-assuredness. It's literally because of all of those things that they were taken down.
As you've pointed out many times in our personal conversations about this was ahead of the curve on using tech bros, CEOs as antagonists.
Yes.
I watched Jason Bourne, the third Jason Bourne movie, which also had Alicia Vikander in it. And in that movie, there is a tech billionaire bro, and it came out a year after Ex Machina. Or he was far more sympathetically portrayed than Nathan is. And it is intuitive of Alex Garland to put a Forbes or a Steve Jobs or
even Elon Musk.
Zuckerberg, Elon Musk. I mean, the guy is the CEO of Blue Book. I mean,
Right.
just Facebook with another name.
You don't get exactly what Blue Book is. It's like sort of Google. It's sort of Facebook.
It's a search engine that...
It's also sort of Apple.
That just takes your data, right?
Right, yeah, pretty much. It just collects data somehow. I mean, this was 2014, I think. It was shortly after Steve Jobs died, and you kind of had the start of the revisionist, and I'm actually using that in a positive way, revising the earlier liberal hagiography of Steve Jobs. But the revisionist notions of, oh, well, he yelled at his employees a bit. Oh, he was kind of a dick. That kind of thing. And even in this movie, you do have a bit of that naivete where Nathan is, in fact, a genius and did do all this by himself.
Yeah, he's the inventor.
Right. And that...
The tinkerer.
And that still as a category exists, and it's perhaps something reactionary with that. But it was at a time where where liberals were talking about how Elon Musk will save the world with his electric cars. Liberals were very sympathetic. I mean, other than everyone kind of always hated Zuckerberg. But like outside of that, I mean, you know, you look at the way Steve Jobs was seen, the way Elon Musk was seen, the way even Jack Dorsey from Twitter was kind of seen.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. Yeah, they were seen as these intelligent, well-meaning people who will work, you know, smarter, faster, all the little adjectives Fisher talked about in capitalist realism.
Benevolent.
Yeah, improve the world in ways that government can't. You know, I mean, this movie is definitely an attack on that.
So to riff on what I said earlier about enchanted spaces, Ex Machina takes place in a remote, undisclosed area. In the beginning scenes, a helicopter going into the woods, the deep woods. Initially, I thought that it was in the Northwest, but as I later found out, it's shot at Pinewood Studios and Juvet Landscape Hotel in Valdelin, Norway.
I mean, because there is a giant glacier, so, like, my always assumption was it was supposed to be Alaska somewhere or something, just because, you know, where else in the States are there glaciers?
To go back to the enchanted spaces, it's in the middle of nowhere, and it is like an inventor tinkerer's place, and it reminds me of Stalker in that house houses their desires, all of their desires. And it almost posits this question of what if they actually went into the room in Stalker, would, you know, this is metonymically like what that would be for Garland.
Yeah, I mean, I can even see, Caleb's end of just getting locked into the space as like sort of this Tarkovskian irony.
Yeah. Because it's like, even in Stalker, they are like, nah, we don't need to go there at the end. But it's like...
It's a silly place.
Yeah, it's like, what if we went in there and there were sex robots, because that's what we desire as tech bros, is to have sex robots, or to save sex robots from somebody who's keeping those sex robots hostage.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, Caleb's story is just this classic admonishment of like, you're rescuing her, but in so doing, you're assuming she wants to be with you. Like, you're assuming she desires you in a way that you never fucking asked her or like bothered to really find out. You just...
She does ask him.
Thinking, yeah.
do you like me?
Right. But like,
I like you.
but yeah, no.
And then
but I
there's
mean, it's this whole thing of like, yeah, you just never fucking questioned that this was about you,
Or that she was possessed agency and desires of her own that were unknown to you.
Yeah, that were separate and you aren't in the fucking picture. Like,
And then there's like these funny, cringy scenes where Oscar Isaac's being like, you know, she's got a hole you could totally fuck her in. that pleasure stimulize her. And there's just like a lot of like just frat bro talk, this like fake elevated level.
right. I mean, it's a counterpoint to, the original reference that probably some people in our audience will get. Like, the original run of Futurama has a lot of very cringy fucking elements now, if you go back and watch it now, with the way Fry pines after Leela and this whole, like, kind of nice guy incel waxing kind of bullshit. That, yeah, I think this movie really cleverly targets in a subtle way, but it is these nuanced elements of patriarchy that this movie kind of attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, both Caleb and, yeah, as you said, I mean, they kind of represent these, like, flip sides of this sort of toxic masculinity that is blinded because neither one of them actually ever cares about what Ava wants.
Or neither one of them can recognize her as anything than an other, as a complete other that is subject to their own desires without any desires of her own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a funny scene. Okay, so if you haven't seen the movie, please go watch it.
This is legitimately one of my favorite movies.
And then there's this wonderful scene, again, with the bro speak. Caleb is in a room with Kyoto, the other sex robot that Nathan makes, and he's like, "Oh, you caught me." And then this scene plays out, so we'll play out this.
Go ahead, dance with her. Dance with her. No? You don't like dancing? She does. Come on, buddy. After a long day of Turing tests, you gotta unwind.
What were you doing with Ava?
What?
You tore up her picture.
I'm gonna tear up the fucking dance floor, dude. Check it out.